Syria. It's the ongoing quagmire of the Middle East. The story that best explains what a mess Syria is details how during the Obama administration, forces funded by the Pentagon were literally fighting forces that were funded by the CIA. We should have known that Biden's Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin was a fool based on his own service in Syria. He led Obama's effort to train and equip local Syrian fighters to battle against Assad, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, each other. Who even knows at this point? The point is, after spending millions of your dollars, the results were terrible and embarrassing.
Can you tell us what the total number of trained fighters remains?
It's a small number, and the ones that are in the fight is we're talking four or five.
4 or 5 people, and like tens of millions of dollars were spent on this. And if only 4 or 5 remain, you should definitely know whether it's 4 or 5. The Assad regime did ultimately fall. The current president of Syria is a former Al-Qaeda fighter. The U.S. previously had a bounty on his head, something like $20 million. President Trump's trip to the Middle East this year was historic and successful. He mentioned a very different path from Obama. Rather than wondering which Syrians we could give money to fight other Syrians, Trump is choosing engagement.
My administration has already taken the first steps toward restoring normal relations between the United States and Syria for the first time in more than a decade. I will be ordering the cessation of sanctions against Syria in order to give them a chance at greatness.
Several Republican congressmen agree with President Trump. Also this year, Representative Marlin Stutzman and Representative Corey Mills made an unofficial trip to Damascus. It was the first trip of U.S. lawmakers to the country since the fall of Assad. They met with the new president, discussed U.S. sanctions, Iran's role, and the possibility of reestablishing normalized relations. During the visit, Stutzman toured war-damaged parts of Damascus. He visited the famed prison that was noted for abuse under the Assad regime, and he met a number of religious and Christian community leaders. Stutzman publicly argued for lifting or suspending sanctions on Syria, framing it as an opportunity for economic recovery and a chance for the United States to engage diplomatically. Republican Congressman Marlin Stutzman joins us now. Congressman, I want to get your reaction to the Syrian president's remarks at UNGA. But first, you've actually been to Syria. You went with Congressman Corey Mills. What led to the trip and what did you learn?
Yeah, Matt, great to be with you. But I have quite a few Syrian American constituents and friends that have lived here in Indiana and Chicago and have been talking with them for quite some time about their experience and their family life in Syria. And of course, it being on the northern border of Israel, if we have a stable Syria and a Syria that's secure for the Syrian people, that's good for Israel. It's good for the Middle East. And so when al-Shara became the president of Syria after Assad was pushed out, they asked if I'd be willing to go meet the new president and the new government. And I told them that I'd be willing to do that. And so it was a really good trip. We were there for 2 nights. As you showed, we met with al-Shara and also got to go up to Sednaya, which is a prison where thousands and thousands of people were murdered just because of political assassinations and political differences with Assad. But, you know, with al-Shara, I think time will tell. That's the big position that's the position I'm holding. And the Syrian people are desperate. They're needing some sort of ability to restart and to rebuild their country. And I hope that al-Shara follows through on what he says. It all sounds really good, but at the end of the day, actions speak louder than words. I
don't think I've ever met an Al-Qaeda. Was it awkward, like being in the same presence of someone who, like, we had a 8-figure bounty on their head not all that long ago?
It is a little nerving, Matt. You know, people ask me, what's it like? I said, I've never met someone who was on our terrorist list. But you know what? He's 42 years old. He was very genuine. He was very sincere. He had a vision, and that's one of the things that I appreciated. I asked him about the relationship with Israel. He said he was open to the Abraham Accords. He's backed off of that a little bit publicly, but I truly, you know, want to believe that he's going to do everything that he says. But again, you know, we've seen this before, and that's why I think President Trump's doing the right thing by giving them a chance, giving him a chance. I watched his speech at the UN. You know, he blamed Israel. But I know he's got a lot of internal forces too. He's avoided several assassination attempts internally with people that are more fundamentalist than he is. I think the big indicators to watch are the curriculum that they use in their schools in Syria, and also religious freedom, because Syria is very diverse. We have a lot of Christian friends there, Druze friends, the Kurds, and I know that Ambassador Barrack is working very hard to bring these people together to really stabilize Syria, which in the long run would be good for the Syrian people, but also the region.
It's such a smart point about the pedagogy that's being delivered to young people, because that really does define the future. What should be U.S. policy towards Syria in your mind?
Well, I think that, lifting the sanctions is the right thing to do at this point, but also having the ability to snap them back on if al-Shara and his government go sideways. The steps that they're taking seem to be, consistent with what he told me in April, but there was Druze and the Christians were attacked down in Sednaya, and there's a real problem down there that we're watching very closely. I know that we were able to relay that to Ambassador Barrack. He's been addressing it. It sounds like there's efforts to get humanitarian aid into Sednaya, get their water turned back on. We don't know all of the details, but what al-Shara said at the UN was that there's going to be justice served for those who attacked other Syrians. And so if he follows through with that, I think those are great indicators. But at the same time, his history is very checkered, and so we have to keep a close eye. But I think for the Syrian people, we have to give them a chance.
I was heartened to see that you and Congressman Mills met with some of the Christians and other religious minorities during your time in Syria. What feedback did you get from them, and are Christians still being tormented and killed in the country?
Well, the Christians that we spoke with are not, and they were straight north of Damascus, and they're desperate for freedom. They're desperate for the ability to rebuild their lives. They were right in the same town as Sednaya, which is Assad's prison, where thousands were tortured and killed there as political assassinations. But I do, talking with missionary friends in the southeast around Sednaya, especially back in July and first part of August, it was very bad. This is the same evil that attacked Israel out of Gaza back in October of 23. And so there's a lot of work to do. We're also suspicious that these foreign fighters that are in the region, Iran, other countries, want to see disruptions in Syria because they want an unstable Syria, where that way they have a landing pad to attack Israel from and create disruptions. So he has his work cut out, there's no doubt. But my hope is that he pulls together a very diverse government, one that respects all religions there, all of the different people groups there. His best decision that he could make is to actually form an alliance with the Kurds, with their military prowess. Sure. That would be a great move on his part.
Well, however it gets better, I don't think it will without engagement, which is why I think the work that you and Congressman Mills did was so important. Before I let you go, Congressman, are we headed for a shutdown? And if so, what's it going to look like?
Well, I think Schumer is in a box, unless he's willing to do, the same move that he did earlier this year. What I keep repeating, and I'm sure it drives Democrats mad that have Trump derangement syndrome, is that if Schumer shuts the government down, Trump is more powerful. And they're going to have to make that decision. They're not willing to vote on a cloture vote to let us pass budget bills, appropriations bills. So I think that this is the best situation for them if they can actually find a way to get to it. But they're so afraid of their far left, and Schumer's afraid that AOC is going to run against him in a Senate primary, which she'd probably win. But they're in a real spot. I think that they probably will shut the government down, is my bet.
Wow. Well, you've warned them. You've warned when they shut the government down and then they complain about the fact they've made Trump stronger. We can say Congressman Stoltzman told them so. Congressman, thanks for joining us. We look forward to checking back in with you soon.
Thanks, Matt. Great to see you.